Okay, so you know how much we all crave those actionable insights, right? The kind that can help us navigate our super busy lives
Right.
without getting lost in the weeds. And you sent over this article, Five Stoic Principles to Lead a High-Performance Life, from the Lead on Purpose podcast, because, well, you're looking for exactly that.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this article is it's not just like a random blog post. This is coming from a high performance coach who's really steeped in this stuff. They're drawing on the wisdom of the Stoics, like think Marcus
Right,
Aurelius.
the OG Stoic.
Yeah.
But they're also blending it with more contemporary interpretations,
Yeah.
especially from like Ryan Holiday's work.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so practical for us today, right? It's not just ancient philosophy, it's about applying these principles in our modern lives.
Absolutely, and that's exactly our mission for this deep dive.
Right.
We're going to break down these five principles and really explore how you can use them to, well, to lead a more effective life, a more fulfilling life. And just to lay it all out for you up front, the five principles we'll be exploring are control, what you can let go of, what you can't. Then we've got turn obstacles into opportunities. Then we'll cover master your emotions, master your life. Then we'll discuss live with purpose and virtue. And finally, we'll look at be present.
Great roadmap. Let's jump in.
Sounds good. So let's start with that first principle. Control what you can let go of, what you can't. It sounds so simple on the surface, but what's the real depth here for someone you know who's really driven to achieve?
Well, it really is the foundation of the whole Stoic approach. Think of it this way. It's about becoming super intentional with your energy, right? Like you only have so much energy to expend in a day, so you want to direct it toward the things you actually have control over.
Right. So instead of getting all worked up about the things you can't change, like the weather or traffic or whatever it is that's stressing you out,
Yeah.
you focus on your own thoughts, your actions, your responses. Is that right?
Exactly. The Stoics were all about focusing on those internal factors. And for someone aiming for high performance, this translates into very specific things.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, think about it. Your diet. What you're putting into your body is completely within your control. Your media consumption habits, you choose what you expose yourself to, your behavior, how you treat others, how you show up in the world.
Yeah, those are all things we can actually influence directly.
And maybe most importantly, your reactions to stress. This is where that stoic mindset really comes into play. Because it's not about eliminating stress altogether, it's about how you respond to it.
That's so true. I feel like we're so quick to react without even thinking about it.
Well, exactly. And the Stoics, they had this fascinating perspective. They said that external events are neutral.
Neutral. What do you mean by that?
It means that the event itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's our interpretation of it, our response to it that gives it meaning.
Oh, that's a really interesting way to look at things. So like if I miss my train, for example.
Exactly. Missing the train is a neutral event. You could
Mhm.
get all stressed out, frustrated, maybe even angry. Or you could see it as an opportunity to relax, read a book people watch.
Yeah, I can see how that shift in perspective could be really empowering.
Mhm.
So instead of letting those external events dictate my mood, I can choose how I want to respond.
Right, and that's where you reclaim so much mental energy that you might otherwise waste on things you can't control. Remember, you're striving for high performance, so why drain your energy on stuff you can't change?
Makes total sense.
And the article offers a very practical suggestion here. It says make a list of the things you can control in your day.
Okay, I love a good list.
So think about it. What you say, how you act, what you eat, the effort you put into your work, these are all within your control. Focus your energy there and consciously let go of everything else.
Okay, that's a great takeaway. It's about mental decluttering for peak performance. So you're not bogged down by all that stuff you can't control. Which kind of leads perfectly into our next principle, right? Turn obstacles into opportunities. This one really resonates with Ryan Holiday's work, right? Especially the obstacle is the way. But for someone who's so driven to achieve, how can you actually use this idea of challenges as opportunities to your advantage?
Well, it all starts with a mental shift. Instead of viewing obstacles as like stop signs on the road to success, the Stoic mindset encourages you to see them as detours, detours that might actually lead you to a better route.
I like that. A better route. So instead of getting all discouraged and giving up when you hit a roadblock, you look for the opportunity within the challenge.
Exactly. And that's where that growth mindset comes in. Because obstacles aren't there to block you, they're there to test you, to push you, to help you develop new skills and perspectives.
The article gives a really good example of this, right? It talks about how some people use the COVID-19 lockdowns as a chance for self-reflection and to deepen their relationships.
Right. Instead of just succumbing to despair and feeling trapped. They found a way to turn that obstacle into something positive.
Okay, so how can we apply that same proactive mindset to maybe the everyday obstacles that we face in our lives? The smaller stuff that comes up all the time.
Well, imagine you're working on a project, right? And you hit a major setback. Maybe a deal falls through or you get some negative feedback. Your natural instinct might be to feel defeated. But the Stoic approach would be to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What skills can I hone? What new perspective can I gain?
Right, so it's not why me, it's okay, what now? What's the good that can come from this?
Exactly. It's like you said earlier, building mental muscle through resistance. And remember, the Stoics, they believed that obstacles don't block the path, they are the path. It's through those challenges that we build resilience and develop our character.
That's a great way to look at it. Obstacles as the path itself.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the third principle, which I think is so relevant for anyone striving for high achievement. Master your emotions, master your life. This feels like a big one. So in the pursuit of our goals, how can we really leverage this idea of emotional mastery to our advantage?
Yeah, and I think there's a really important distinction to make here. Because Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions or becoming some kind of unfeeling robot. It's about recognizing that your emotions are powerful forces that can either help you or hinder you. It's about conscious regulation.
Right. Emotions are information. They can tell us a lot about ourselves and our situation, but we don't have to let them control us.
Exactly. So think about a time when you maybe made a rash decision because you were angry or frustrated. Later on, you probably regretted it, right? Emotional mastery is about creating that space between the stimulus and your reaction. It's about being able to observe the emotion, understand where it's coming from, and then choose a more measured response.
Right. So it's not about ignoring or denying our emotions. It's about choosing how we respond to them. I love the example the article gives about the motorcyclist who's riding recklessly and his friends who are telling him to chill out.
Yeah, that's such a vivid illustration, right? Because in that moment, the reckless motorcyclist is completely ruled by his emotions. He's not thinking clearly. He's putting himself and others in danger. But his friends, they're demonstrating that emotional regulation. They're calm, they're rational, they're trying to de-escalate the situation.
Okay, so for someone listening to this right now who's thinking, okay, yeah, emotional mastery sounds great, but how do we actually do that? How do you cultivate that kind of regulation in your daily life, especially when you're under pressure?
Well, the article talks about some really practical things you can do. Mindfulness, journaling, self-awareness.
Okay, these are great in theory, but sometimes they feel a little woo-woo. How can we make these concrete for people?
Well, mindfulness doesn't have to be some big elaborate thing. It can be as simple as taking a few minutes each day to just focus on your breath. Notice the sensations of your breath coming in and going out. This helps to quiet the mind and bring you into the present moment.
Right. And that present moment focus is so key because when we're caught up in our thoughts and emotions, we're not really present.
Exactly. And journaling can be a really powerful tool for processing your emotions. It's like having a conversation with yourself on paper. You can write about what you're feeling, why you think you're feeling that way, and how you might want to respond differently in the future.
So it's a way to kind of step back and analyze those patterns, right? See how you typically react to certain
Yes,
situations.
exactly. And then self-awareness, that's about really understanding your triggers. What are the things that tend to set you off? What are your typical reactions? Once you know your triggers, you can start to anticipate them and choose a different response.
So it's like creating that buffer zone between the stimulus and the reaction.
Exactly. And that buffer zone is where your power lies. Because instead of just reacting impulsively, you can choose a response that's aligned with your goals and your values.
So it's about making sure your emotions serve you rather than the other way around. I love that. Okay, so now let's delve into the fourth principle. Live with purpose and virtue. This one feels like it adds a whole other dimension to the idea of high performance. So for someone who's really driven to achieve, how does aligning with purpose and virtue fit into that picture?
Well, what's so fascinating about this principle is that it shifts the focus away from external validation and towards internal integrity.
Okay, so instead of chasing after success and achievement for the sake of recognition or status, it's about something deeper.
Right. It's about acting with a strong sense of purpose and living in accordance with your values. The article explains it as consistently choosing what you know is right over what might be easy or expedient.
It's about doing the right thing even when it's hard.
Exactly. And the Stoics had this really interesting concept of virtue, which they defined by four key areas: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance.
Okay, so these are like the cardinal virtues.
Yeah.
How do they apply to our lives today?
Well, wisdom in a modern high-performance context could be making well-informed strategic decisions based on careful consideration. Courage isn't just physical bravery, it's the mental fortitude to take calculated risks and persevere through setbacks. Justice could mean treating colleagues and clients with fairness and equity. And temperance is all about maintaining balance, avoiding excess, and preventing burnout.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. It's about embodying those virtues in all areas of our lives.
Right. And the Stoics, they believe that living in accordance with these virtues is the ultimate good, that pursuing them is inherently fulfilling regardless of external
Oh,
outcomes.
it's not just about achieving a goal, it's about how you achieve it. And the article also talks about the importance of having a clear purpose, right? Your most valued priority, and making sure your daily actions are aligned with that core purpose. It's about having that North Star to guide you.
Exactly. And the article gives an example of facing conflict head on as an act of virtue. How do you think that could look in your daily life?
Well, I think it could mean having those difficult conversations that we often avoid.
Yeah.
Like addressing a problem with a colleague directly instead of just letting it fester, or setting boundaries with someone who's taking advantage of you.
Yeah. And those conversations can be super uncomfortable, but they're often necessary for growth. And it takes courage to speak your truth, to do what's right, even when it's hard.
Okay, so let's move on to our final principle, be present. The article calls this potentially the most profound principle. I think it's particularly relevant in our world today where everyone's so distracted and everything moves so fast. So for someone who's constantly juggling multiple priorities, how can cultivating presence really be a source of power?
Well, the key insight here is that the present moment is the only reality where you can actually take action and experience life. The past is gone, the future is uncertain. When you're constantly dwelling on what has been or worrying about what might be, you're missing out on the power and potential of the now.
Right, it's like we're so busy living in our heads that we forget to actually live in the present moment.
Exactly. And the article emphasizes that in this context, the past and the future are almost illusions. We can recall the past, we can anticipate the future, but we can't act within them. The only place we can act is right now.
Okay, so the article highlights mindfulness and meditation as ways to cultivate this presence. Practices like breathwork, focused attention. But, a lot of people hear that and they think, oh, I don't have time for that. How can we make this more accessible for those people?
Well, think of it this way. Even just 5 minutes of focused breathing can make a huge difference. You don't need to go on a silent retreat to reap the benefits of mindfulness. It's about integrating these practices into your daily life in a way that works for you.
So maybe setting a timer for 5 minutes in the morning or before bed just to focus on your breath.
Exactly. And you can even practice mindfulness throughout the day by bringing your full attention to whatever you're doing. Like when you're eating, really savor the flavors of your food. When you're walking, notice the sensations of your feet on the ground. It's about being fully present in each moment rather than letting your mind wander to the past or the future.
That makes so much sense. And the article makes this really powerful connection. Presence equals power.
Right. Because when you're truly present, your focus is sharper, your decision making is clearer, and your connections with others are deeper. Whether you're leading a team meeting, giving a presentation, or having a conversation with a loved one, presence allows you to show up fully and engage more effectively.
It's like eliminating all that mental noise and just being completely tuned in to what's happening right now. Amazing. Well, this has been such a great deep dive into these 5 Stoic principles. And just to recap, for everyone listening, we explored controlling the controllable, finding opportunities and obstacles, mastering our emotions, living with purpose and virtue, and the power of being present. It's a framework for high performance, but also for a more intentional and meaningful life.
And the article recommends some great resources for further exploration. The books by Ryan Holiday, The Daily Stoic, The Obstacle is the Way, and Stillness is the Key. These are all really accessible introductions to Stoic philosophy and how to apply it in your life.
Yeah, for those who want to go straight to the source, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations is a must-read. It's like a collection of personal reflections, and it's full of timeless wisdom. And I think the key takeaway here is that these aren't just abstract ideas. They're practical tools that we can use to navigate the challenges and opportunities of our modern lives.
And the article encourages us to take these principles and actually put them into practice.
Right. It's not enough to just read about them or talk about them. We have to actually apply them in our lives. Whether we're facing a tough situation, feeling overwhelmed, or just wanting to live more intentionally, these Stoic principles offer a really valuable path forward.
And remember, these are tools. You can choose the ones that resonate with you the most and start experimenting with them. See what works for you.
Exactly. So to wrap things up, I want to leave you with that closing thought from the article. Get out there and lead your life on purpose. Take some time to reflect on how these 5 Stoic principles resonate with your own experiences, your current challenges, and your aspirations. How might you integrate even one of these principles into your life, starting today, to move closer to that life of purpose? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
And thanks for bringing this awesome article to the table.
Always a pleasure.
Until next time, Lee.